My camera. It attacked me. Hello everyone and welcome back to Game. I'm Tolus and I've been asked to do a behind-the-scenes look at my very first video, my very first contribution to the Next to Nothing series, which was the very first minisode, episode 1.1. 1.1, 1.2, hang on, let me double check that. Episode 1.2, the Instant Survival Shelter Box. So the concept behind this episode was, how do we explain how they got from inside the cave at the end of episode 1 to inside their camp at the beginning of episode 2. It was something that we were originally just thinking we'd take as an unexplained event that happened sometime in between the two episodes, but then we pitched the ideas for minisodes. Little episodes that can be little stories, self-contained, in between the other parts of the series, that can either explain things that didn't make sense, could be used to retroactively add to the continuity, or, develop the characters a little bit, add a little more to the world, a little bit of world building. Not really necessary to enjoy the series, but a nice touch, a nice little addition. And so that was the idea behind this. How do we explain how they got from the cave into their camp? So now, we're going into this. This first shot here...
Something doesn't look right. Was the sky always this color?
Now, this shot was actually retooled after the fact, after we wrote the script and approved it and thought we're going to push forward on it. This is when the Visions update dropped. And it changed absolutely everything that everybody loved about their worlds. It was an apocalypse of galactic proportions, you might say. A lot of people had worse effects than this. In our case, our beautiful blue sky turned kind of sickly, dusty yellow, which we didn't like. So we came up with this scene to explain it, because at that point we couldn't do anything about it. So we were calling attention to the fact that yes, this happened, yes, the sky has changed, yes, we're going to deal with it, and we're going to move on. And then, of course, after that we found a mod called, Alien Skies. This mod gave us back our original sky, the kind of bluish-greenish sky that you saw in the first episode. This mod. Mods have actually been a godsend for this entire series, and we found our first mods in this episode. The mods that we discovered were, first and foremost, Euclea by WenderTP, very prolific mod maker, has been the main reason we're able to do what we do with this series. The reason we're able to make the sets that we make and the way that we're able to make them, because he has made all of these mods. Actually, he's made this specific mod, and he works tirelessly on it. He keeps adding more and more and more. When we first picked up this mod, it only had about 800 objects in it. And now, it's got over 1,000 different items in this mod, plus the ability to do what he calls tessellation, I don't remember what he calls it, but he introduced it in one of the more recent updates. Or he added in the ability to do it separately. He has a separate mod that lets you just place floor panels at weird angles, but that's something that came up much later. Anyway, check this guy out if you haven't, if you like building in the game at all. This is a absolutely essential resource for you guys. And the other mod that we found was also uploaded by WenderTP, the Unlock All Emotes mod. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Wender, what have you done? The Unlock All Emotes mod. Now with additional emotes. Now the thing about this is it gave us all of the vanilla emotes, all the stuff that's built into the game that players can use from the get-go, and all of the ones that you can unlock with the Quicksilver points. It also gave us all of the gestures that the NPC characters use when you approach them. So like the head shake, the little waves, everything like that. Every little motion that you do when you walk up to them, this unlocks for us. I mean, it's dozens of new ways that the characters can move about. And this episode right here is where we discovered that these mods exist. So I am very grateful. We are very grateful to the mod creators for their contributions to the community, but also, if not for them, and if not for WenderTP, and actually, he didn't make that mod originally. It was from Monkey Man 192, who originally made it, and Winder TP kind of took it over and been keeping it functional with all the updates, and hopefully he continues to support it in the future. But that's enough talk about mods. Let's get back to the video.
Captain Prek, what was the plan again?
Well, we've established a way that we might be able to leave, but that won't do us any good if we die to exposure or starve first.
Now, I was still learning filmography here, so that's why some of these shots are awkward. But a couple things about the last few shots is, at these points, we have a front-on shot of Prek, and he's not looking directly at the camera. He looks over at Ness, and then he looks back in the other direction. And that's because one of the quirks of No Man's Sky in multiplayer, and if you've played around in camera mode while playing with your friends may have noticed this, is that the player character will never look directly at the camera. He's always trying to look at whatever you're looking at, which is neat from an immersion standpoint, but when you're trying to film something is kind of awkward and a little bit frustrating. But we can make use of it. Here, I lined up the camera perfectly so that Prek starts out looking at Ness, and then shifts over to look away from him to continue his line. It's a little bit of camera trickery, knowing how you can abuse the system to get the shots that you want.
That we might be able to leave, but that won't do us any good if we die to exposure or starve first.
And then right after, I completely lost track of it, and he's looking at Ness again, so that's my bad.
We need to figure out...
Now, here, he looks down like he's thinking. This is the emote called Interact with Console, which basically they lean down and they start typing with their little fingers. Literally, it's just one finger. Henpecking, I think some people call it. So that's why you can see his arms twitching, but if you're not paying attention to that, it looks like he's just kind of ducking his head and thinking. So we use that for a lot of shots throughout the series, and that's the reason why we have a close-up on the head, is because as long as we get it above that midpoint on the torso, it's easy enough to kind of ignore the shifting arms, and you just think all they're doing is kind of looking down and thinking. We actually use this for the first few close-up shots on Robin because that was the most stable we can make the player avatar because they kept shifting around. But then we found out something better, which we might talk about in another behind-the-scenes video, but it doesn't apply here. Anyway, moving on.
How to survive on such a desolate world with no supplies or shelter.
Now, the music here I actually found after the fact.
If only we had some sort of kit we could use.
But I thought it fit the scene so perfectly. It was just the right length.
What about an instant survival shelter?
Ness, let's try to be realistic, please.
Now here, this shot and the one right before it are some of my favorite shots from the whole thing. We give a little hint of what's behind it, but Prek obviously doesn't see it. He's got the visor cutting off his view, and either way, he's not looking at it. But then, back here, we hint at it again. Ness just announced its presence, and we're showing, again, Prek doesn't see it. And I just love this little sequence. It feels good to me, because this, again, was my first venture into filmmaking in any capacity. I mean, I'd made like a couple of gameplay videos on YouTube before this, but this is the first one that I actually cut together, designed the sound, and directed everything, trying to make it look engaging for an audience. So the fact that these shots came together really kind of tickled me. And this one is another one of those emotes. It's an angry head shake where they the character, basically they do this. They go, meh. And I cut out like that last section of it and then slowed down the rest of it significantly to get the action that we have here, to get it to match up to the words and the feeling being expressed here. We do that several times throughout the episode. By the way, that's why sometimes some of the scenes seem a little bit jerky throughout the series. It's because we had to slow down the footage to make it match what the characters are saying. Overall, it doesn't really come across as anything other than maybe a problem with YouTube buffering, because that happens sometimes. And we use that to our advantage to help with immersion in the series.
Ness, let's try to be realistic, please. This is serious.
Huh.
You know.
This box was a real pain in the butt. It's made of concrete, but I painted it black so it would look like, it would read to the screen more as like a plastic or a metal. And then the letters themselves, they came from the Euclea mod. They are decals. Those letters actually color the environment. As a matter of fact, if you look, you can see down there by the S in shelter, the sand in that area has a little bit of white, because the way those letters work is they're like a sphere of influence, and they paint on whatever vertical surface they happen to encounter. In this case, it's the wall and a little bit of the sand there. So some of the shots later on, when Ness gets a little bit too close, his foot turns white, his hand turns white, and it's just weird that it works like that. But I mean, I suppose it would have to. Collision detection and whatnot. Anyway, it's just how the game is made to work, and it's something that we had to learn to deal with. A lot of what we learned for the sake of making this series happened in this mini-sode, and we passed it on to each other.
No, we could maybe salvage some water out of these cacti everywhere.
The knock there, that was a reverse of the very tail end of the come here gesture, where they like lean forward and wave and then do the come hither gesture. I reversed the tail end of that so it looks more like he steps toward the box, and because his hand is hidden behind the corner, by adding those knocking sounds, it sells the illusion that that's what they're doing. And that's a lot of what we do throughout the series, is camera trickery, things that sell the actions through sound. Audio trickery, not camera trickery. Those are two different things. But anyway.
But how do we find food?
I wonder how to open it.
That was another one of those scenes where Ness's leg turned white when he got too close to the letters. It took us about 6 times to get that one.
Maybe we could eat the cacti too. It probably won't be good, but it's sustainable.
Now this one, it was very tricky to try and use. We had the unlock emotes gave us an emote called Gather, where it's exactly what it sounds like. He reaches out and he starts gathering, but he does it endlessly, just endlessly. So I had to find the exact frame where it looks like he's reaching forward to grab something off the cactus without it looking like he's awkwardly swiping at the empty air in front of the cactus, because that's what it actually looks like. Now you can see here we're having a little bit of a problem with the letters because they're obviously sprites and they paint based on the orientation of the person looking at it. They try their best to adhere to the surface, but on that A, you can see we got some problems. And then again, down there by the S, you can see the white coming onto the terrain next to it because I got too close. And right here, you can see Ness's hand turned white, but also it disappeared into the box. But since it's like very small frames, these are things you see when you're editing, not so much when you're actually watching the video. So it works. It got used. Yeah, moving on.
Ness, can you keep it down? I'm trying to think.
This here is actually an angry gesture. Actually, that's not an angry gesture. That's one of the vanilla ones. The one where he reaches out and does a little finger wag, but the camera's so close that it's kind of hard to tell unless you notice that his arm is raised, that that's what's going on. Just like here on the webcam, you can't see what my hands are doing right now, you can just tell that my arms are kind of moving. Well, except for that one that appeared on screen for a second, but whatever. You know what I mean.
Sorry.
Thank you. So, assuming the cacti aren't toxic, we should be fine. Probably.
And I had him walk down the hill there just to show that he still could not see the box if he wanted to. So all of this is about scenic continuity for me. This was back at the point where we didn't have established sets just yet. We were kind of just grabbing places around the desert and shooting scenes as they came to mind. It's like, well, this looks good and that looks good, so let's use these. They weren't established as locations or landmarks, so we weren't considering locations or landmarks. We were just trying to make it work. At this point in time, I was the only one concerned about scenic continuity, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think it's a good thing. It's just a thing that was. But I'm happy with the way it turned out. Now, the thing about these sound effects, that might sound a little bit off from the laser in the game to you guys, and that's because it's not the laser in the game. We actually remove every sound that gets recorded with the game footage. And we go back through and meticulously, step by step, action by action, replace every audible sound effect that we possibly can. Because it just makes it come off smoother. The sounds from the person recording don't always match up with what's on screen. Or they might not go well with the music, or there might be background noises that we don't like. Like, ships flying overhead, like happens every 30 seconds in the game. They're supposed to be on a desert planet, so we can't have that. Although, admittedly, we do have some scenes now and again where ships fly by, and they don't even reference it. It got completely missed in editing. But we try, we do our best. So this sound I actually made from scratch in Audacity. And I spent probably 45 minutes working on this 6-second laser beam noise. and added some welding
We
sounds
just
on
need
top
to
of it.
figure out the shelter situation. I guess we could use a cave somewhere, like where Ness took me.
That actually is the cave where Ness took
No,
him.
I don't want to be too far.
Wait a minute, what was that? I just noticed something. That's a face. Right there. Right there. That is a face. It's a very ugly face, but it's a face. Neat. Moving on.
Took me. No, I don't want to be too far away from the ship if we can help it. Ness, I thought I asked you to stop. Oh my god.
That right there, that was actually the idle animation. You can tell someone else is playing Prek at this point because he's looking directly at the camera. But also, that was at one point where the head shifts dramatically from one side to the other, and I found the perfect point where I could reverse it to make it look like he's just surprised.
Oh my god. Where did all this come from?
This right here is why the box was an absolute headache. The first time I built it, we didn't have the mod that let us put the letters on yet. But, you know, I was just going to fill it up with stuff, and whenever I opened it, I was going to spread a bunch of it around, and that would be what they used to build their base. The first time I tried it, I built the outline of the box, I filled it up with stuff, and then I closed the box. And I thought, great, this is ready. Whenever we go to shoot that part, we'll just do that. And then I opened up one of the walls, thinking I should add something to the inside, and everything inside got deleted. So I had to do it again. But it's just as well that that happened, because right after that incident, I was so frustrated by it that I'd have to build an empty box and then open it, and then put everything else inside, that I almost lost hope until I found the Euclea mod, which let us put all these letters and designs on it that really sell it. And actually, the ISS there on the side appears in several other episodes. It's kind of a landmark in the series. It's not really important, but careful viewers are going to see it, and I think that that might be appreciated. At least I'd like to think that that's appreciated. Let me know if that's appreciated, or if my efforts are in vain, because if you don't care, then, you know, I can stop. I don't want to stop. I enjoy it too much.
Instant survival shelter box.
Ness, you're either the luckiest idiot that I've ever met, or I'm still unconscious and dreaming.
That's another point where the idle animation actually somehow manages to add to the emotion behind the line, and I was really happy with that shot. It really helps Prek kind of dismiss everything that's going on.
But I can see it too.
That doesn't mean anything. I could just as easily be dreaming that too.
Oh. Yeah, I guess so.
Well, dream or not, we might as well take advantage of this. Ness, let's get to work.
Yeah!
Now, this scene here was actually Zio's suggestion. He thought we should do the jump in the air hero pose thing. I don't know what movie he referenced, but he said it, and I loved it. It was supposed to be a successful moment for him, for Ness specifically. And then we told the rest of the story. It kind of makes this entire thing amount to very little, if not nothing. Or, as we like to say as our running joke behind the scenes, everything that happens here amounts to next to nothing. Yes, I know, it's not a great joke, but it's fun to us, and hopefully to you. Ness was happy about that. Now, this scene here I added as an afterthought. This was one of the happy, or
Is
one
this
of the
a
greeting
high five
emotes.
moment, Prek?
We actually did this shot about 5 times trying to get it perfectly. This is a greeting. It looks like he's shielding his head from the sun, but because of the height difference here, I just thought it looked like Ness could be asking for a high five, and that seemed like something in his character, so we did.
No.
Alrighty.
And I just loved it. But anyway, that's my director's commentary on the first mini-sode of the series. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If not, let me know, and I won't do this again. If you did, let me know. I still might not do this again. I'm not great at talking to people or talking about the things that I make. I'm much better at just talking randomly. So trying to have any sort of organized focus tends to not work for me. But I hope I was able to make this entertaining for you guys. I hope you liked it. If you did, let us know. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and I hope you'll come back for the next video. Oh, and stay tuned, because series is about to end. It's coming in a week. It's very dramatic. I hope you guys like it. But until then, have a nice day.